Welcome everyone today to our webcast, Creating Arrays in AutoCAD 2023. Our presenter is Renu Matu, who's the author of the learning guides for AutoCAD. Renu, I will pass things over to you.
Okay, thank you, Corinne. So before we begin, let me introduce myself again. I'm Renu Matu, and I'm a learning content developer with ASCENT, which is a division of RAND Worldwide company. Now, the company provides technology solutions, training, and other professional services to the engineering community. And ASCENT focuses on the training and curriculum development of AutoCAD, Autodesk software products. And personally, I have over 23 years of experience in various Autodesk products, such as AutoCAD and other AutoCAD verticals. And those include AutoCAD electrical, mechanical, plant design. And I'm also experienced in the Autodesk visualization side, and that include Autodesk 3ds Max and VRED Professional. So at ASCENT, my everyday work involves creating the courseware and training materials for the Autodesk products, of course, in my field of expertise, and I also provide support for these products. So that was about me, and now let's talk about the agenda for today. So as Corinne already introduced the topic, I'll show you, so what I'm going to do is today is I'll show you how to create arrays in AutoCAD. First, I'll show you to create copies of objects at fixed intervals of rows and columns. And this is the rectangular array. Then we'll create copies of objects around a center point, which is the polar array, and finally create copies of objects along a selected path, and that is the path array. So I'll start by explaining all the different types of arrays using the PowerPoint slides, as you can see on the screen, and then at the end, I will also demonstrate each type of array using the AutoCAD 2023 software. After that, as Corinne mentioned, we will have the Q&A session. So let's begin with the array commands. So the array commands, they generate copies of selected objects at fixed intervals. There are three types of arrays that we can create, and they are the rectangular array, polar array, and the path array. And for creating them, three specific commands have been provided by AutoCAD. And all these three commands can be accessed through the Home tab, Modify panel in the ribbon, and there is an array flyout where all the three different array commands are provided. You can see them on the screen here. Now, each type of array can be created using two methods. One is the grip method, and the other is the array contextual tab. So once you select the required object to be arrayed for the array style that you want to create, the grips display on the array preview in the drawing window, and the array contextual tab also displays in the ribbon. Both of those methods provide you places for setting different options, such as the number of items, number of rows and columns, if you're creating a rectangular array, and rows, columns, and their angles in case you're creating polar array, and then options for creating path arrays as well. So there are other properties such as spacing between the items and how you want to rotate the objects if you're creating a polar array, and how to spread out those objects over a path, and so on and so forth. So on this slide here, you can see the different types of grips and the array contextual tab as well. So these are the different types of grips that will show up, and the array contextual tab will show up. So both of those are specific for a rectangular array, and they change based on which array you have, which type of array you have chosen. So, and both these methods basically have the same options, and it depends on your personal preference which one you want to use. Or you can also use a combination of both those methods. So some options you can set using the grips, and the other options you can set using your ribbon. So it's really a personal preference. Now let's talk about the rectangular array first. A rectangular array, it consists of a pattern of objects that are divided into rows and columns. So where can we use those rectangular arrays, like in everyday life? So creating light fixtures in a ceiling grid or the panels in a door window are some good examples where a rectangular array can be used. Accessing the rectangular array command is from the Home tab Modify panel. I mentioned that before. And there's a flyout, so you can choose the rectangular array command from there. And then after starting the command, you are required to select the object for arraying. So first of all, select the object. And then what happens, a preview of the array displays with the grips. And also an array contextual tab also displays. So so here, what you can do is you can specify the number of columns, the number of rows, and how many levels you want to create. And here you can also specify the column and row spacing. So both of those can be done again from the grips or from the contextual tab that's shown on the screen. So just to let you know, all of this as I mentioned before also, I'll be like demonstrating all of this after I'm done explaining the different types of arrays. And there you will be more, it is very easy because it's all visual. You will be able to understand where to enter and how to enter those items and the number of rows and columns and so on and so forth. Now let's talk about the polar array. A polar array, it consists of a pattern of objects that are copied about a central radius. For example, you want to create holes around a circular gasket, or you want radial wings of a building. These can be easily accomplished using the polar array. As with the rectangular array command, you can access the polar array from the Home tab and Modify panel from the array flyout. And after starting the command, you're required to select the object for array. And for this specific command, you are then required to specify the center point of the array. After you have provided these two, a preview of the array displays with the grips and the array contextual toolbar. Here you can specify the number of items and number of rows, and also how many levels you want to create. And for polar array, you have the fill and the between angles that are interdependent. So if you provide a fill angle, the between angle will adjust itself accordingly. And again, as I said before, I'll show this in the demo portion. Then there are other options that you can set, such as whether you want the array in a clockwise or an anti-clockwise direction, and how do you want the rotation of the objects and so on. So I'll be showing some of these options in the demo part later. Now, let's move on to the path array. As the name specifies, a path array consists of a pattern of objects that are copied along a path. The path can be straight, curved, or irregular linear path. So a good example of path array is when you want to have lights along a walkway or the edge of an irregular shaped pool. And as you can see on the screen or the slide, the group of deck chairs along the curved portion of the pool, or the trees around the curved portion of the pool. So all this can be accomplished easily by using the path array. So as with other array commands, you can also access the path array from the Home tab and the Modify panel and the array flyout. And after starting the command, you're required to select the objects for arraying. And then you will also have to select the path line or the curve. A preview of the array displays with the grips and the array contextual toolbar. And as with other arrays, you can specify the number of items, number of rows and levels. And then additionally for path array, there are the measure and divide options, where you can either maintain the object spacing that you have specified, that is the measure option. And or you can evenly space the objects along the length of the path that you have already given. And this is achieved by using the divide option. Again, I'll show both those measure and the divide options in the demo part, which is next. So let's get into the software demonstration. And let me bring up the AutoCAD screen for you all. And right here. So let's first start with a rectangular array. So what I want to do is I want to create a rectangular array in this classroom of those chair and the desk and the laptop there. So all I go do is in the Home tab, Modify panel, there is the array flyout, and it has all the three array commands, as I mentioned. So we'll select the rectangular array here. So for that purpose, and it'll ask me to select the objects. So you can use crossing or the window option if you have more than one object to select. I'm selecting these three objects, which is the chair, the desk, and the laptop. And once I'm selected, I press enter. It automatically creates a default array which already has the default columns, rows, and things like that. And now, as you can see here, the array creation contextual tab is displayed right here. And then all those grips are also provided. And now, for example, this grip is, if I select it, I have to give the number or how many rows and columns do I want. Or if I don't want that, so what I can do is I can enter my columns here and rows here. So each one of them is the same thing, basically. You can either use the grip or you can use it from here. So for the time being, we are using 4 rows and 4 columns and 3 rows of those chairs. So let's keep it as is. So now, as you can see, these are going off. The spacing is not right between them because we want to get them inside the classroom, which is only this much bigger. So we can all change the columns, the spacing of the rows in between the rows. So these ones, you can either do that by entering some kind of a number here, or you can use the row spacing, which is this. And if you click on it, it will try and see how many rows you want to, how much closer you want to. So it's more visual. So if you can use this, or you can enter some between rows, that one there. So once I enter this, I have made it accommodating I've accommodated all the chairs and tables inside the classroom, and I can click to use it. It will automatically change the between spacing here. So it's interdependent. So either you can use the arrow keys or the grips, I mean to say, or you can use the between here. So as I have already done it, I can say close array, and this has been accomplished. So this is a rectangular array, very easy to use, very straightforward. So now let's go on to the polar array. And so what I want to do is I have the flange, and I want to array this nut, this hex nut, around in a circular way around the center point. So for that, again, in the Home tab, Modify panel, Array flyout, when I open it, I'll use the polar array for that. So I click on the polar array, I select the nut that I want to use for arraying, and then I press enter. Once I do that, it will ask me for the center point because this is a polar array. And for the center point, I will use the center point of the circles. So I want it going around this center point. So once I say center point, it automatically creates a default array, a polar array. But as you can notice, there are 6 items. I want, for example, I want 8 items there. Again, I can either use the grips or I can use the ribbon. So let's reuse the ribbon and say total number of items to be 8 instead of 6, and say enter. So there you go. So 8 nuts have been arrayed around at equidistant. They're all equidistant. Now, what we can do is, as you can notice, this point of the hexagon is facing upward. But here you can see that the horizontal portion of the hexagon is facing upwards. So the orientation of those nuts doesn't seem to be right. So for that purpose, we can use the rotate item. So there is a rotate item for the polar array, which can be used to achieve that. So once I click it, you can just pay attention to how the nuts will change. So the orientation of the nuts changes. So all are facing the same direction, the horizontal portion of the hexagon. So we can use that rotate item. Again, there is direction as well. And it is, if you want it clockwise, right now it's going anti-clockwise. So it's starting from here and going anti-clockwise. You can go direction in the other, which is the clockwise direction. So you can change that direction, and you will, if you want to know why it is important, you can sometimes, what happens is that this fill angle, you only want half portion covered, like you want them to move only at maybe till half of this. So you can change the fill angle to maybe 180. And once you press enter, you will see all the 8 are accommodated in this direction. So that's where the direction comes in handy. You want only the bottom portion, so then it will go like that. If I would have changed it in the upward direction, then all the 8 would have gone in the upward direction. So that's where you can use direction and the rotate items, and as I mentioned earlier, also the fill and the between angles, these are interdependent. So I changed the fill angle, the between angle changed automatically because it has to now have a lesser, it's only 26 now, because it has to accommodate all the 8 nuts in the 180 degree, only half portion of the flange. So that is how you can easily manipulate those arrays and what those different options can be used for. So let's close this array and let's go into the path array now. So for that, again, I have the swimming pool, and I have already created 2 arcs, and one is for the trees and other is for deck chairs. So now if I want to create, again, the array flyout, and I will use the path array now. And for that, first of all, I select the objects. So for example, I want those trees to be going around this arc, this path. So once I say enter, it will ask me to select the path curve. It can be a linear, any linear irregular shape, or a straight line, or anything you want. So although it says path curve. So once I select that, you will see a default path array is created, and which has 2 grips, and also the array creation toolbar is contextual tab opens up. So now again, what has happened is that I want 7 of those, but they don't go all the way till there to the path. So if I wanted to spread them out fully, then for that purpose, I need to use the different options up here. So what I can do is I can use in the measure option, there is also this divide. So what measure option does is it maintains this whatever spacing I have provided, so which is between 7 feet and 6 inches. So it maintains that. But if I go divide, it will spread it out, and it will recalculate the spacing and change the spacing there. So I'll go divide and see it changes it, and they are spread out. All those trees are repositioned based on the path itself, and the angle is calculated. Similarly, if I want now, so for example, this one is done, we want to create another path array of these chairs. Now, so select the objects. So there are 2 objects for this chair, and then I'll say enter. Once I say enter, it will ask me to choose the curve, so which is that, and it spreads it out, only 3 of them, and the angle has been started, like it's a default angle that was given to it. And there are 3 objects, 3 chairs that I want. Now, if I want to, again, I can either use the divide option to spread them out fully. And then also there is this align items. So this align items, what it does is it aligns all those with respect to the first item, how it was aligned with the curve. It will align the rest of the objects in a similar fashion or a similar manner. So that's what the align items does. So if you don't want, if you want them in a different direction, in a straight direction, you can say align and see how it does. So it uses this first one and just places the other one in the same way. So, but if you want to take the alignment of the curve, then you have to go align option. Again, if I want to spread them out till here, I can use the divide option for that. So you have all different options that you can change and use. Sometimes you want to change, maybe I want to add one more of the chairs. So I'll say 4 and enter, and that's how it will do equidistant till the end of the arc, the path arc that I have provided. So that's about it for all the 3 different arrays that, as you can see, it's so easy to create all the 3 different kinds of arrays, and each kind of an array has a very specific use in creating different objects in AutoCAD. So let's go back to our slides. So I did this software demonstration, and now to recap, I was able to create, I showed you how to create different types of arrays, both by using grips and the array contextual tab in the ribbon. And so what we achieved was that I was able to show you how to create a rectangular array by copying the objects into rows and columns, and then also how to create a polar array that consists of a pattern of objects that are copied around a center point. And finally, we were able to create the path array by copying objects along a selected path. And with that, I will pass you over to Green.